This video is brought to you by me, GP. For today's installment, I'm going to do something a little different. As you can see, the canvas, after I warm up with this sketch, already has paint on it. It was an unfinished painting by an unknown artist. But as I look and I saw it, I saw myself in it. The eyes are a wrong color, but before you get all up in arms about me potentially ruining an unfinished masterpiece, I took some steps before I started. I will talk briefly about the steps that were taken. When I acquired this unfinished painting, it had a layer of grime on it. It was also relined by someone I don't believe was the original artist. Luckily for me, the lining was glued with beeswax, a substance at my skill level I could deal with. The previous artist used a lot of broad palette knife strokes, leaving a heavy impasto. So before I could clean the paint and exposed gesso that had not received any paint, and before I could remove the additional lining, I had to protect the impasto and paint at all costs. So I used a fish gelatin that is water soluble and a fine tissue paper called washi kozo to line the face of the painting. And since I'm just an amateur at painting restoration, I had to go to my home oven and preheated it to the lowest temperature as it could possibly go and heat up the painting and, more importantly, heat up the beeswax. I had already removed the canvas from the stretcher at this point. When the painting was appropriately hot, I removed the painting from the oven and removed the original canvas from the linings. After this was done, the painting was put under a flat weight that wasn't too heavy and had a thick felt over the impasto layer of the face to cool down and keep the painting flat to prevent any warping. The next day, it was time to remove the washi kozo protective layer. This was as simple as wetting the tissue and activating the fish gelatin glue base, making peeling off very easy. Now, before I started this whole process, I did some tests to see how aggressive of a solvent I would need to clean the painting. Now, in this case, I guess since it was incomplete, it was never varnished. It is what it is. But as I removed the grime, there was a lot on, mind you. My guess is that the painting hung in a smoker's home, or was near candles, or even a fireplace. The colors came out very beautiful, and after the long, tedious process of cleaning, as I have to clean inch by inch, even for a small painting can take some time, it was ready to be relined and stretched on the canvas. To extend the tacking edge of the painting to be reattached to the stretcher bars, I felt it didn't need to be entirely relined, just the edges. So I used some extra canvas fabric I had lying around, fraying the edges, and I used a reversible glue to attach it to the edge of the painting. And by using that tacking edge, I used a staple to attach it to my new 8-inch by 10-inch frame. That brings us to this time lapse. Now, I would normally use an oil paste paint to create my Mastro segments. This time, I didn't want to work to be permanent, just in case I was working on a long-forgotten Picasso or something. So I'm using a resin-based pigment that is easily removable with no chance to harm the original oil paint the previous artist has left behind. Since the artist was going for a more abstract and maybe cubist style, I felt uncomfortable using a mimetep technique, where I would try to match the artist's style hand with little dots, making my work blend in. Another reason I felt insecure about that technique is that a heavy impasto implied by the artist. I would have to build up a medium and sculpt it in a way that felt was implemented by the original artist. So I took a step back and decided to use an old Italian technique invented by museums before the invention of reversible pigments, when conservation work would be done in oils, which is largely unreversible. so it would be beneficial to see the conservation's work, so you could then appreciate the work as a whole from a distance. But close up, you could see the different hands of work and can easily see the original artist's intent and see where the damage / is or was. The technique specifically is called trattaggio. It is a technique of a series of lines, but is meant to stand out and create a new image, and reimagining to see the art through the damage, or in this case, unfinished work of the artist. I'm gpdoes, and I'm painting you. Please subscribe, and if you feel charitable, I have a tip jar link in the description.
It's fantastic. This is truly... Oh, sorry, I'm all worked up. This is among the finest. I would say that an insurance figure on this would be somewhere between, $150,000 and $250,000, probably toward the high end.